Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Yes, this is Brian Weigel back in the host chair for a second week in a row. We have Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle on his world adventures, sending us Snapchats from all the tropical destinations and just, getting us all angry on the Slack chat. So it is what it is. But yeah, welcome. We had a great, week of results. Good. We'll talk about that. How FC Cincinnati stand after two hard-fought games over this past week. I'm joined by a great crew of characters this week. If you're watching our show, just below me, we got Justin Blair. How you doing, Justin?
Doing well, man. Just settling in for the night. Got the kids going round and round with the doctor's appointment, so I'm kind of afraid I'm going to be under the weather here soon.
Yeah, well, we'll all fight through it. If you can't tell today, I got visited by the sick monster as well, so I sound very interesting if you are used to hearing my high-pitched voice. We got the man with the best voice on this crew tonight, Brian. We're going to call him Big Bri. Brian Beanback, how you doing, my man?
Back on the show. We've come to May. April was a busy month for us. And so I woke up this morning taking a deep breath of fresh, cold air up here in Fort Wayne. But yeah, man, I'm glad to be back and back at it.
Well, April showers bring May crappy weather is what we got here.
We had some snowflakes as I was driving home from dinner tonight, and I didn't love that.
Well, I know you're up north, but we're here in just the northern part of bourbon country and horse racing country. So it's Derby week. We're all excited about Derby week. So as long as it's looking nice and sunny for Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, we'll all be happy. And, if you're a Louisville fan, whatever, you still stink. But hey, you put on a good horse race. Out in sunny California. Oh, it's so unfortunate. It's 60 degrees out there today. I'm joking. The man, the myth, the legend, here to answer all of our tactical questions. FC Cincy Tac Talk, Coach Brad Goff. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing well. It is a frigid 60 degrees here, though. Frigid, I'm telling you. And, I'm actually doing really well because I am so excited that the English Premier League decided to cancel the rest of their season so I can focus on FC Cincinnati because that's what's happened, right? There's nothing going on in England anymore. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go. You could be in a lot worse position. I love this about Spurs fans that sixth place, whatever, just casual, and that you got our buddy Jeff Warner and his Evertonians just holding on for dear life for see what happens the rest of the month.
But just like it's a frigid 60, it is a painful sixth place, Brian. Painful.
If it's any more solace, I think at least Man City's handling stuff for you guys. All right, guys, real quick, as you know by now, Apollo Home is the premium home service provider in Cincinnati. They pride themselves on awesome customer service, expert technicians, and 7-day-a-week service. Next time you need help with plumbing, electrical work, or HVAC service, give them a call, or you can always schedule a service visit online at apollohome.com. Tell them Cincinnati Soccer Talk sent you. Guys, some cool stuff on the Apollo Home front. They're coming out to my home. They're going to clean all of our vents, clean the dryer vent. They're going to do a whole HVAC thing because I keep getting sick. I keep getting dust in my throat, and that can't be good for the show. So can't wait to have Apollo Home come out here in a couple weeks, take care of my HVAC system. All right, guys, as I said, it was a interesting weekend or week of FC Cincinnati soccer. We had a lot more of the Brenner transfer saga. He finally made it back into town. We had a great midweek U.S. Open Cup match versus Louisville City. Advanced them there, going to face New York City FC in the next round. And then, of course, had a battle of the number ones in Boston this past weekend with the New England Revolution. So, guys, we had a lot of bests, a lot of worsts for the week. Let's start with Justin. Give us your best and the worst for the week that was FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, my best is going to be league play, being able to pick up a road point at New England, I guess Foxborough. we are at the beginning of May and we're still at top of the table. I mean, pinch me. I mean, this is pretty awesome stuff. And I mean, a point in Boston or Foxborough, we're definitely gonna look back at that at the end of the season and say that was a crucial point to pick up.
Yeah. One more thing to add, Justin.
Sure.
I don't know if you've noticed this. I tweeted out this week. We passed our point total from 2021 this week, 21 points to 20 points. We already knocked 2020 out of the water when we got a whopping 16 points, everybody. Woo!
Low ceilings, man. Makes for
man.
great and high floors. All right. Worst, I'm going to say still just a touch away from putting balls in the back of the net. It's just, particularly in the first opening minutes of the match, you saw numerous times that we just were disconnected on that final pass. And it's unfortunate, man. I really thought this team would just start clicking after the first couple matches, but it's clear that we're going to have to kind of ease into the season this year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought a couple times things started clicking up top with the three, and then, you know, we hit a game where they just weren't, and it's, you know, they've struggled for stretches of 3-4 games and then finally hit something, and then they struggle again. And I think we're in kind of one of those down times.
Yeah. How much do you guys think that is because of the preseason hype? Do you think that our high expectations is creating low buzz, I guess?
Coach, I'm gonna let you handle that one. I know we're gonna dive down into the offensive production later, but give us a sneak peek before we get into our special guest, Lloyd Sam from Apple Plus, here in a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think that it's preseason expectations so much as in terms of like point total or goals or anything, although there was a bit of that. I think that Pat Noonan is trying to make this team more adaptable at playing different styles, and we're seeing a bit of the growing pains of this, and we'll talk about it later, but this team is trying to use the ball a lot more. Not crossing the ball as much, not playing as many long balls. And I think that we're seeing fewer chances based on that. But I do believe that good things are coming once, you know, Santos and Vasquez start really a bit better together, because I think those two actually pair better up top than Brenner and Vasquez. So we shall see.
Ooh, if you want to hear more about those takes, make sure to check out Talking Tactics with Coach Bragdolph and Justin Hoyt earlier in the week, and then the walkthrough with Coach and Nate later on in the week. And of course, stick around, as we're going to have a special guest, Lloyd Sam, for Apple Plus or MLS Plus on Apple TV coming here very soon. Brian, what was your best and the worst for the week?
Yeah, I went kind of simple on my best and worst this week, because I think the obvious ones we'll talk about later on in the show, the really obvious refereeing and, you know, all that stuff for the worst. But man, for my best, I was blown away when Barrial hit that Rabona straight down the pipe, and I just thought he overcooked it, man. I didn't know where he was going, and I went, why did you do that? And then I remembered Santos's speed and saw him take off, and man, it was just pretty. It was just pretty. So if I could pull out one play that I loved this weekend, it was that one. I think there's other things we'll look at. Coach is going to hit one, I think, here in just a minute that I thought was really good, so I won't steal that thunder. The worst, though, man, I had a list of things that I could go with the worst that, again, I think we'll touch on later in the show, so I'll save a lot of that. I really forgot how much I dislike watching games that are played on turf. Just the dull, greenish gray color just was not pretty to watch in general. But then the injuries, I thought our touch was off. We had some really poor passes in the back up top that, you know, Vasquez played one across. I think he was trying to go to Santos and he was 3 yards behind him, and it just kind of trickled across. And I don't know that was the turf, but I'm going to blame it on the turf and say that was my worst this week.
Yeah, turf monsters. No more nipper, thank goodness. And
right.
hopefully not many more of those matches. I think we still have to go down to Atlanta, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Coach, what's your best and the worst?
Yeah, for the best, I'm gonna take some of that low hanging fruit that Brian was just talking about, and I'm just gonna say the play of Yerson Mosquera. The kid's just really impressed me, and obviously he gets the goal, which is why I slid him in here as the best. But his defensive play has been great, and then his effort. There have been some moments in games where he has, run back from a corner kick, full 100-yard sprints to track down attackers. In this one, he did a really great job reading a run of Bobby Wood and coming over to make a tackle to keep him from getting a chance. I just have been really impressed with his commitment, and obviously his defensive presence. For my worst, I was going to say the inability to progress the ball, but since we're going to talk about that later, I'm going to harp a little bit on Coach Pat Noonan, because I don't think this was the wrong decision, but I think his substitution pattern down the stretch smacked of a guy playing for the draw on the road. And he has impressed me so much in his ability to always expect his team to win and try to make those changes to do that. I think to kind of shut up shop, maybe it was the weather, being on the road in New England. So it's not the wrong strategy, but I think I would have liked to see him go for it a bit more.
Maybe that was the juju of coaching next to Bruce Arena and having that rub off on him a little bit through that evening. My best of the week, anytime you can beat Louisville, I don't care if they're USL, whatever. Those guys are a rival. We haven't beat them in a long time, and it was great to see us come out with a victory. The young guys played early on. Then, of course, our MLS players came on and really showed him what's up. I just wish Tyler Gibson would have got to play a little bit longer than he did and get a little bit more of appreciation from the FCC faithful. And, I know you were talking about this, Brian. My best play of the week was the back heel that Yu Yakuba had onto, I think it was at Barreal running in that game late on. So I love seeing a little bit of showiness, we'll say, from those guys. My worst, and again, I'm not sure this is a huge worst, and this might play a little bit to what Coach said a little bit, is we're starting to see areas where we need improvement and how we're still a little bit limited on who we can bring off the bench to change the pace, change the tide of a match. You have Yakubo, it's Sergio Santos right now, who's a starter. When he's a starter, your options are a little bit more limited, and Dambaji and Kimi Ordonez. So while I think, Malik Pinto is doing very well and he's getting a lot of praise, as he should, we're still a little bit limited, and I'm excited to see what we're going to bring in this summer, as we have a lot of mechanisms that FCC will be able to utilize once Brenner is gone this window. So, all right, guys, as this is the special time of the show where we get a special guest from Apple TV. I think Lloyd is in the green. There he is. All right, we're going to bring on Lloyd Sam. So, all right, bring him in here. Sorry about that, Lloyd. Just want to make sure we were all good here.
What's happening, guy? I know my this phone isn't straight, but
You're so fine, dude. It's great. Now we're very happy that you could join us again. Lloyd has been a vet on so many different levels, playing in England, including stops in the United States. He played for a variety of clubs, including Charlton, Leeds United, which is pretty big in the States right now, DC United, New York Red Bulls, and with, I think, ended his career in Miami. So, Lloyd, welcome in, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Hey, I was listening to a bit of the conversation backstage. I was dying to get in. When someone was talking about turf, I was like, yeah, as a player, we would count the games we had, because I heard someone say, how many more do we have? We hated playing, especially up there, New England. It's just a horrible game every time you go up there.
So you played for New York and DC, so that was also kind of a rivalry game. So like when you want to give your all in those matches, is it a little tough? Like, do you feel like you need to throttle back a little bit when you're on that plastic stuff, or how does that change your mental approach?
So are you talking about when you're on turf?
Yeah.
How does it change your approach? Honestly, I never felt as confident on turf. Mm-hmm. It's a real thing. There was players that were like more suited to it and had an advantage because they grew up on it. There's a famous player we used to talk about in our locker room, like Diego Fagundes. He still plays now. Yeah. He was one of the best players we've ever seen on turf. And that's all we always used to say about him. Not saying he's not a good player on grass, but on turf, he steps ahead of a lot of people.
Yeah, I saw this week over in England, I think is it Luton Town, that they used to be like
Luton Town.
Yeah, Luton. Sorry, my Midwest, man, I'll tell you what.
That was real. That was the old school turf, man. Yes. That was the old one with the sand. not the
Yep.
ones with the pebbles.
Oh,
They're
geez.
all as bad as each other, really, aren't they? Though.
For sure, for sure. So again, you said you played for a lot of great clubs. You've been in the U.S. and England, but you didn't retire that long ago. So I guess I mean a lot of us hear your name and still have that respect for you being in Major League Soccer for so long.
Appreciate that.
You know, how did you kind of plan your career path in transitioning to being a broadcaster?
Oh man, I got lucky. So I ended up playing in Miami, Miami FC, and there happens to be a hub down there, Fort Lauderdale, where they do a lot of the USL games and certain other games, little competitions called Vista World Link. They do a lot of work with Apple as well. I think they do MLS Pro, MLS Next Pro. So someone put my name forward to go down there, and I had already been thinking about it. I was already thinking, you know, like every player does, what am I going to do after my career? Like, this is what's on our mind, like all the time, like good times, bad times. You're always thinking, what am I going to move to the next? So luckily it matched up, and then they got me in there, and I started USL, and you know, from the bottom, and I've come up to, you know, MLS now. Last year, Charlotte FC, that was amazing. So it kind of got lucky, man. Sometimes you have to just have the right situation where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to be in the right place at the right time in a lot of things in sports media. That's for sure. So you've seen a lot this season of Wayne Rooney and DC United. What do you think has been the key of their turnaround this season?
Man, I think Wayne Rooney was trying to get some players back first and foremost. He didn't have Taxi Funtas there. And I think, you know, I mean, what they've invested in him, he's a big part of what they do. They've got that connection going now with Benteke and Taxi. And Benteke, I don't know how many games you guys have watched. Like, his attitude is ridiculous. Like, it looks like he's more into the games now than he was in the Prem. Like, it's crazy how into it he is. He cares about every moment. He doesn't come out of any challenges. He wins everything in the air. So that's one big reason. But Rooney's gone for some big guys, some warrior type guys along the back. They're huge back there and they win everything in the air. And then the guys he has in the middle, they're all like the same sort of hard working character. So he's gone for a clear style now, and I think he's kind of nailed it down with how he wants to play.
Lloyd, you've seen a lot of Eastern Conference teams this season so far, and right now FC Cincinnati sitting at the top of the table with New England, right? Which is good for us this season, new to us overall. Curious, of the teams that you've seen, who's impressed you the most?
Who's impressed me the most? That's a good question. I'm like the last game I actually did was the two bottom teams in both conferences.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be them. So I'm thinking, I would say St. Louis. St. Louis impressed me the most. This is, I think, their third win. They had first home win, I believe. I don't know what week it was. It was way back in the season, but the way they played in that game, man, they were the real deal. Like, they did everything right. They were first to second balls. If they had to bring a little bit of skill, they did. They were expressing themselves, hard work, and they were honestly showing everything like a team could show. Mm-hmm. So I would have to go with St. Louis.
Yeah, real quick. I have to know the matchup. Was it Montreal Sporting?
No, it's home to San Jose. 3-0 win.
Oh, yeah.
3-0 win. And it was a great game for a commentator.
Yeah.
Like, the noise was just crazy, and there was just a lot of moments in that game that we got to express ourselves. That's what we want. We want moments. We want the good players, and, you know, especially goals as well. But, you know, it's so fun to do it when there's good players playing.
Lloyd, speaking of excitement and the excitement of calling a game in those moments, you have not had the privilege of calling a Cincinnati game yet, and we're happy to have you joining us here in the Queen City, the real Queen City, by the way.
They would kill me.
But I am wondering, you know, what gets you most excited about watching FC Cincinnati play? Who are you looking forward to see play in person? What kind of, you know, call some of their fancy plays?
You know who I'm going to say already. That's my old teammate, Lucho Acosta from DC United.
Yeah.
You know, when you trained with him, you can only imagine, right? Obviously, you see what you see in a game. Can you imagine what you see in training? It's just crazy. Like, I'm looking forward to watching him. He's one that always expresses it. He's not afraid of expressing himself, as you guys know. And he's got a skill set that not many have in the world that I've seen, even on TV. So he's one. I mean, my old other teammate, Matt Miazga from Red Bulls, he's there as well. So I'm hoping to maybe catch up with some guys. But you guys have got a lot of 1-0 wins this year. And I was just looking through and I was like, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Don't sleep on the 1-0 wins, man. Those are high mentality wins. I always talk about 1-0s. It's like the whole game, you've kept them out and you've just done just enough to get your nose ahead. And then you grind. It's always a grind. So that says a lot of character about the team. Without having watched a lot of Cincinnati games, just that trend was impressive to see.
Yeah, Lloyd is, I go to games as a fan. I hire these other guys to go up in the press box, but you say there's 1-0 games. I drink more beers in those games because I'm stressed out versus having fun drinking more beers because we're celebrating up 6-0.
Separation.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
So how was the loss in St. Louis received?
Oh.
I can only imagine.
That's a sore subject.
Sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
Lloyd,
we'll be asking the questions here.
I think that we had a lot of expectations, and there's been, St. Louis and Cincinnati were, I say rivals, but there's some friendly banter there when they're in USL together, and this is kind of the first time back. So I think it was disappointing, and this is the only time we got to see them. I mean, the XG for the match was way closer than that result, so that was a little.
Does that make people feel better, the XG, right?
In Cincinnati, we've been so bad that we cling to any little shred of hope.
I had a conversation with someone about XG the other day, man. I was saying, you never will win a game 4-0 and deserve to lose, but XG could sometimes make it close. But it doesn't account for maybe second half, you've taken off your stars and things like that, and you've fallen back and you don't care about some of these shots as much, maybe. So it's it's one that I'm trying to come to terms with more as a more old school, kind of guy. But I'm getting into it.
I think that I don't want to answer for these guys, but for me, going in to answer your question about the St. Louis game, I think the hype was built because 2 or 3 games prior to that, we were both still undefeated. Mm-hmm. And I think we were going in hoping that was an undefeated versus an undefeated game. And St. Louis, I think, lost 2 games prior to that. And I think they were hungry. And I think it was just a game that we weren't ready for. I don't know what it was.
I will be watching that before this game comes on the weekend, though. I apologize for not having watched some of the ones we're talking about, because I do pride myself in going back a good few games, but more later in the week. So, but I mean, you guys, man, I love the way the club has turned things around. Just the perception of, from the whole league. I feel like it's just a great story. It was going a certain way and then it turned around. And when I look at you guys' team, you guys have got talent on that team all over it. They've recruited well.
Yeah, I think Chris Albright deserves a lot of credit. Him and his staff deserve a lot of credit. And then the guys in the building with them and training every day. Dom Kinnear has done a tremendous job with our strikers and with the majority of our team. And then obviously Pat and Kenny Arena, they get loads of love around here.
Okay.
So
that's good to hear.
So Lloyd, a couple questions before we get you out of here. When I have, former MLS players on the show or USL, whatever level, I like to ask them, who reminds you of yourself from when you're playing days? Like, is there a player in Major League Soccer right now that you say, that guy played like the tenacity?
Hey, you guys got to send the questions early next time.
I'm going to have to do
tough
that.
Ones. That's a tough one to come up with on the spot. Who reminds me of myself that plays MLS?
Yeah, I mean, or it could be somebody you really enjoy watching. Besides Lucho, because I know you like Lucho.
Yeah, no, I'm not like Lucho. Oh my gosh, what a question that is. I feel like I've said something about someone recently. He reminds me of me. Oh, I've got to come back to that one. I really want to answer that as well.
Well, I got a quick question. It might be a little easier to answer since you mentioned Lucho. I'm always curious. Since you played with him, what's he saying to the ref after every call?
Oh man, I don't even know if I should even be saying too much because I remember.
You don't really have to answer.
I feel like he's still not that happy with me because I was always like a guy like, yo, like get on with it kind of thing. Like we respect your ability, but tell the ref after the play's done kind of thing. And I feel like there was sometimes like a little bit of friction there, which obviously has been let go. But on the field, we were like best mates. You know what I'm saying? All the time. We always looked for each other. We always respected each other's ability. And then off the field, not so much. And it was just like a little bit, you know, so I also sympathize with him as well because, you know, I was a very vocal player as well about certain things. Maybe if things weren't, you know, being done to the right, you know, and sometimes you have to be, you know, different with different kind of characters, right?
For sure.
So I could have probably handled things better as well, you know, understanding how important he is to us. So, you know, that's obviously learning lessons.
Right
but
on.
Not that was even meant to go out there, but whatever. Like, I love Lucho, love his ability. Looking forward to watching him.
You need to give him a little more fashion advice because that haircut and everything, he shaved the beard and the slick back. Woo!
Oh, yeah.
That's a look.
I think he's going for what I would call a vibe. It's you know, it's just, there's a certain vibe of it. And that's what I think he's going for. That's all I could say.
We still love him here in Cincinnati. So, I don't know if this is your first trip to Cincinnati ever. I know it's the first broadcast this year. We always ask the guests, you know, do you have any questions for us? So you could be, you know,
definitely.
You know, anything,
definitely.
Whether
this is like recon right now for me. It's more, first of all, I need to you know, shout out my co-commentator, Eric Krakauer, because he always talks about Cincinnati. He's like, that stadium, I really want to commentate there. Like, I'm having to calm him down when he's talking about coming to Cincy. So he's wanted this like for so long. And we didn't travel last year with Charlotte SC. So when he comes, he's probably going to express on the broadcast like how happy he is to actually be there. So that makes me more excited because I haven't probably seen or heard what he's heard exactly, like about the stadium and the booths and all that. I just see it from afar. So I'm looking forward to coming. But question-wise, I just want to know what are like the general concerns, you know, that people are just generally kind of talking about that are like known things with the team.
Coach?
I think a big one is people are starting to say, when is it time to worry about Brandon Vasquez? You know, he had such a hot season last year and he really hasn't clicked into gear. Obviously, with Brennard's departure, there's the idea of can Sergio Santos step up? But I think a big concern after the past two matches is just the inability of FC Cincinnati to continuously progress the ball forward in possession with any consistency. They've kind of struggled to do that of late. So I think there are some concerns, but like you said, 1-0, we'll take it while it lasts.
You'll take it. I've heard Pat Noonan express some concerns as well, which I respect, you know, getting a win and still like expressing that. I liked that from him. You know, some managers, they wouldn't really like concede that they didn't feel like their teams played well after a win. Anymore.
Yeah.
Are we going around the room here?
I'm going around the room.
Let's go around the room.
I got a whole list, but
okay.
Generally what's concerning me the most currently is our three center back set, and we're not getting a lot of relief for those guys. I think Miazga's played every minute in club play. Hagelin has missed a few minutes, and that was solely due to a red card. And Mosquera, I think he was subbed off for like 15 minute span, and that's it. I mean, three center
and there's
back,
no depth underneath.
Not much depth. There's very young talent. A guy, 2 draft picks, one from the previous season and one from this past draft.
Okay.
Very young guys that we saw in the Open Cup matchup against Louisville, both of them. And Joey looks pretty good. Ian's pretty solid too. But I'm just concerned about the amount of minutes with Leagues Cup coming up. It's just like where are their legs? I think we saw some cracks a little bit last game with Hagelin. I think we're going to go into that later in the show, but I'm concerned about that.
I'm gonna look into that as well. I'm taking notes from you guys. This is great.
Yeah, if we're going around the room, I'll echo what Justin just said. I think we saw some cracks in the defense. It was kind of our pride early on in the season that given up very, very few goals. And I don't think we've given up a ton, except for that St. Louis game and the Chicago game, multiple goal games. But yeah, we're starting to see, I didn't think about that, Justin, until you said that, just the fatigue on the legs, but we're starting to see them get exposed a little bit more. And thankfully, strikers not putting the ball in the back of the net, or Celentano making the save, which has been fantastic. But I think about that. I don't think you talked, Coach, about progressing the ball through the midfield. I'm still waiting for us to get it out wide a little bit more. I think early on in the season, Barreal was standing on the touchline waiting for the ball, and he's getting pinched in a lot more still. And down the right side, I still don't see a whole lot of us being dangerous down the right side of the field. So that would be my thoughts.
Well, Big Brian just stole my thunder with the width in the attack. I was going to say we got a free agent coming into town this weekend. Hop him off the plane, sign him up, Lloyd Sam, start him out in the wing. Let's run, baby. Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we appreciate you very much, Lloyd. And
it was fun, man, and informative, man.
Yeah, we're very happy that you could join us. Hopefully have you again sometime this year. And guys, make sure to check out Lloyd on Twitter and all his social media. I think it's at Mr. Lloyd Sam on Twitter. Any parting thoughts, Lloyd?
I'm looking forward to the game, man. I hope for a great one, man. I feel like the two teams colliding. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it's
hey Lloyd, why don't you think about the player that reminds me of reminds you of you, and let us know on the broadcast this weekend.
Yes, you got to do that on the broadcast.
Sorry, so what's the name of this show exactly, so that I could quote it?
Cincinnati Soccer Talk will be.
I wouldn't want to get that wrong, guys. I got to make sure. Hold on. Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep. So we appreciate you, Lloyd. We'll make sure to at you, and guys, make sure to follow Lloyd and interact with him this week up to the game. Thank you very much, Lloyd.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Have a good one, man. Thank you. And that was Lloyd Sam with MLS TV or MLS Plus on Apple TV. I'm always going to call it Apple Plus. Apple. Yeah, I'm so ingrained with that. Now, he was a great interview. I love getting all the different guests that we have with Apple. They all give their different advice, but the one thing I say is they're always in tune with what's going on with the league, and that's something I don't think we really had over the past several years at least. Before we get into our next topics, guys, I do want to reach out and thank all of our special donors. As you know, we redid our support system recently, moving on to Patreon. So I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We got Ridley, John Davidson, Rar, Laurel Failer, Matt Adamchick, Riley Stephen Burke, James Denbo, Tom Niehaus, Brian Weigel, Brian Giles, Dan Albers, Will Kajcek, Ian Rexroad, Kyle Fight, Christina Schwarma, Kyle Pohl, Rupesh, Tom Beaversdorf, Super Average Jason, John Haskell, Ryan Ernst, Mary Lou, Wes Anastasi, Rob Pierce, Clifford Adams, Thomas Spieth, Pierce Johnston, Mike Prentice, Dave Viederhold, Rob Grissell, Brad Weigel, Kevin L. Day, Paul Hedger, Jamie Smed, Alex Carnegas, Dave Tangler, Patrick Lonnie, Mike Bowman, Brett Silva, Kevin Cooney, Joe Max, Jack Emery, Sarah Gorman, David Moore, Bob Ryan, Ryan Durkin, Bart Labita, Rob Triple, Joe Laurie, Bill Leopold, Maureen H. DeMarais, Jose F. Guerra, David Myers, John Cafadari, Olympico, Joseph of Hangar 937, Justin Blair, Kyle Phillips, Ashley Niehaus, Dan Burns, Tyler Nolan, Coach Clip, Justin Gregory, Scott Dalton, Jason Ashcraft, Jeff Tebbets, and Andrew McCormick. Guys, thank you very much for your support. Please go check out CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support or Patreon to join our team. And of course, join every week. If you do join our support system, you can get involved in the Growler Cup. So,
hey Brian, when's Boston come back?
Oh, dude.
I can't wait for him to grill you about that.
Oh, I can't wait. No, I just hope that I have all the correct names, because we're trying to figure out something with our email this week. If you've tried to email feedback at Cincinnati Soccer Talk, you've probably been getting kickbacks. So he's out in the middle of the ocean and can't handle us getting all of our technical IT stuff back together.
I thought you might pass off the reading of the names to Justin or something this week.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that next time.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you walked yourself into that one, pal.
We're not doing that one at all.
All right, guys. Let's talk about this past week's match. Of course, FC Cincinnati started out pretty well, I guess you could say, getting out in the front foot, some counterattacks. Had a penalty shot early on that Lucho missed. Of course, Yerson Mosquera steps up and gives us a great header to take the 1-0 lead. Of course, New England comeback, get the match locked 1-1, and then we had another tragic VAR referee miserable call that was, I guess, not called. And of course, the match did end up 1-1, which is great. Anytime you can get a point on the road, we'll take it. But let's dive down into the game, guys. So we were talking about struggling offensively, Coach. Is it us not able to move the ball forward from the center backs, stretching the field, Lucho in the right positions? What's your initial takes on why we aren't fully clicking and why Brandon Vasquez only had the chance for one shot this week?
Yeah, I talked about it a little bit, saying that the team is trying to use the ball more. I think it's a little bit telling, and you can tell it mostly with the eye test that they're playing the ball around the back a little bit more, trying to kind of probe into the midfield, pass it into like an OB or a junior, instead of turning and trying to go forward quickly, playing it back out to the center backs and swinging it side to side. And there are some stats, overall touches in the attacking third are almost the exact same as last year, but we're having more touches per game and about 20 more touches, 25 more touches per game in the defensive third. So it just shows there's just a little bit more possession back there. Lucho's getting into decent positions. He's getting the same amount of touches in the attacking third that he was last year, and he's actually getting more touches in the penalty box. But you start to see things like we're creating more shots off of take-ons as opposed to through balls. Brandon Vasquez is getting fewer touches in the penalty area than he did. We're crossing the ball less than we did last year. So that idea that when we're getting into the attacking third, we're trying to play with it and get it into a decent position for a shot, instead of just every once in a while saying like, hey, let's test this goalkeeper out. Let's put the ball in and see if Brandon can win it. And you saw like when Barreal crossed for Santos last weekend, that was sort of just a hopeful cross. You put it in there and you make a play on the ball. Crosses are not generally a great way to score, but you have to try it every once in a while to keep the defense honest. And I just think this year so far, they're trying to keep the ball too much. They're playing it a little too safe. When you talk about progressing the ball, and then I'll stop my diatribe, I think mostly it's about movement. I think the touches and everything are fine. I think the center backs are playing about the same amount of progressive passes that they did as last year. But what you're seeing there was a play in the game where Junior Moreno's received the ball on the half turn, and you look and you see him looking to pass the ball. Sergio Santos is nowhere to be found. Lucho Acosta is hanging out on the left wing, waiting for them to get the ball up into the attack so he can play, which is part of what Pat wants. But there's nobody else there. Brandon Vasquez can only do so much. When Brenner is there, he's able to drop in and link up play too. But you're going to have to find a way to move off that ball, whether it's a wing back getting up more quickly, or whether it's OB being able to shift into that space, or that second forward Santos or Vasquez checking in. The team needs more help in those sorts of areas, so they don't always just play it into the midfield and then play it back out to those center backs.
I noticed actually a couple times in the match where Obi would get on the ball, and instead of progressing it, whatever, he would just cycle it back to center backs, and you would see Junior Moreno just like freak out on him, like, you got to get the damn ball forward, pal. Like, you were doing that so well for us, dribbling and taking a little bit of risk. And I don't know if he's not feeling fit or what, but yeah, it's certainly been interesting. I to your point there about the cross too, what led to the first PK shout was a deep cross from Barreal into Santos. Of course, it was cleared out for a corner, which then led to the first, penalty shout. So Lucho Acosta takes I don't know if it was planned. Maybe it was either a horrible free kick or it was planned and it was still kind of high, but kind of goes out to the top of the box where Barreal takes a shot right on the 18-yard box line, and it hits Renix. His feet were out of the box, but it kind of hits his hand, which was over the line. And you can kind of see on the replays, like the ball hits his hand and then like drops back kind of almost out of the 18. So I definitely, people, I think Pat Brand said like, I don't necessarily know if I agree that first penalty was a penalty. To me, clear as day, ref was on that line. I thought it was a brave and an accurate call. What'd you guys think about that? And of course, give me your thoughts on the wonderful PK that was from Lucho Acosta.
No, I couldn't tell. Initially, I thought that he was out of the box, but yeah, I mean, it's really hard to tell where the ball is in that situation, particularly like the player's momentum is carrying him out of the box. So of course, what you frame by frame find is that his hand was probably slightly over the line, but it's too close to tell. And I agree that if the ref is in position and the call's on the field that way, then I agreed with that call. I mean, I think that was a good decision. And with Lucho, I just think it was a little bit casual, not really a decisive run up. Just kind of found a position. I don't know if he mishit it or not. I would hope he mishit it because that was pretty routine for the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I don't know that I have much to add to that, unless, the only thing I think the angle of the camera on that handball, I think the only way to tell if you weren't the referee was if there was a camera right down the line of the 18. I think he initially called the penalty, correct? He called the penalty, and then there was all the speculation: was he outside, was he inside? So I do think it was the right call to stick with.
Sure. Never went to VAR.
He was right there, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. As far as the penalty goes, though, I feel the same way. I felt like a lazy run up to the ball. Petrovic is good, but man, when you give him a ball just like that to make him look as good as he did making that save, I was watching that with my son was in the room, and I went, I could have saved that ball. Like I knew, like I could tell which way he was going as he lined up and planted his foot, and the ball was slow enough that I don't know, man. I didn't think it was a good strike.
I might be ruining a topic on Coach's show this week, but Coach Lucho, is he out taking PKs? I mean, we need to get Brandon Vasquez some of his mojo back, babe.
Yeah, the first thing that I actually want to do a little bit of talk about the PK call, because I think it's important from an education standpoint, because what we have to remember is that if any part of that soccer ball is over top of that line, doesn't matter where the hand is, it doesn't matter where the body is, if a thread is hanging off of that ball and it is over top of the PK line and a hand touches it, that is a handball in the box. And I think when you slow it down frame by frame, I think it's fairly definitive that the ball is over top the line to some extent. You just can't tell to what extent. It's not like the whole ball has to be in. It's not like if the ball is in, but the hand touches the ball on the part that's out. None of that. In terms of the PK, I think this is what you deal with when you have a penalty shooter that takes all of your penalties. Is he starts to change it up instead of going to the same spot every time. You see a big, talented goalkeeper like Petrovic, and you say, okay, I'm going to change it up and try to open my hips instead of close them. And I think it's always good to be able to have a differentiating force in there, a different player to step up. I would have been really interested to see where Lucho would have gone with the ball, because he would have taken it on the second non-penalty, which we're going to talk about. But I think you're never going to get that ball away from Lucho. If Brenner couldn't do it, there's no way Vasquez is going to pry it out of his hands.
So let's stop talking about all the good things the ref did, because they were fairly limited on the evening. You had Major League Soccer personnel, AppleTV personnel criticizing the decision, even on social media. The MLS or Major League Soccer normally comes out with explanations on why a play was called or not called, and it was very limited on their aspect. The decision in the second half, when Andrew Farrell absolutely cleans Lucho Acosta. I'm going to come back to you, Coach, on this one. Cleans out Lucho Acosta. No, it looks like he maybe calls a penalty, but then somehow a free kick, sends it to VAR. And the ref says, nope, VAR, you're wrong. I'm right. And no PK. So were you pulling out the little threads of hair you still have left there? What was going on?
Are you kidding? I had a full head before that call. I had grown it out, but now I'm back to this. I mean, it was one of those things you hear, Bruce Arena came out after on his side, like, why do we even have VAR? And this makes me question that. VAR has over a 75% overturn rate, because when they call you over, they have seen like, hey man, you made a mistake. You see the ref like saying, give me a wider view, give me a wider view. He waited to see, he was trying to see if Farrell touched the ball, is what I think he was looking at. And when he got that wide enough view to see the ball change direction after Farrell goes through Lucho's leg, through Lucho's foot, you see him go like that. And he's done looking at the monitor. He went over there with an agenda to keep his call. And I think that was wrong. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I don't think it's against FC Cincinnati. I think that he probably was questioning himself a little bit about the call in the beginning, the first half. I think that he didn't love that there was an injury on his watch, and you saw him tighten the game way up after that. And then I think the combination of the home field, the crowd, all of that, I think he was looking for a reason to not call that PK, and he found one.
So kind of how this works, Brian, you make a call and you get dinged if VAR, calls you over and you get overturned. I mean, did you see any shred of doubt on why he wouldn't have? I mean, the thing that pissed me off was he went over there and tried to walk away 2 seconds after from being there.
Yeah. And you could see him arguing. You could hear people criticizing. There was even question, is he looking for an offsides? Which I didn't understand that I think everybody was just speculating why. I don't know. I don't know that there would be a reason that he would have wanted to, other than to save face, that he made the right call the first time. I was shocked.
You go and watch the post-match press conference. Justin, you had statements from Coach Noonan being like, that it was pretty much obvious. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. He also had comments like the game was, was basically chaos, is poorly managed, inferring that, wasn't managed well by the referee. And then he was literally saying that the referee was smiling at players and, basically questioning the professionalism of this player. I mean, overall, the disparities in yellow cards, the disparities in fouls called. I mean, this had to be in my opinion, was one of the worst ref matches I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to be a popular guy tonight, but I think the run of play fouls were horrific, terrible. I think some of the fouls.
Alvaro Barrial's yellow card.
Yeah, the one that led to the New England goal, I thought was horrible. We didn't stop and talk about that one. I mean, and then the quick restart causes the out of position for the goal. But I think somebody talked about this last season on CST. Sometimes you get that reputation after a while, though. I mean, I think there are sometimes that Lucho can be soft to the ground, can be fast to the ground, I should say. So maybe that was confirmation bias, where he was just looking to prove a point that was a soft foul or whatever he saw. Initially, and the reason why I said that I'm probably not going to be very popular here is what initially I saw was he overturned it after the second view. And I don't know if I missed it earlier in the feed, but I never saw that second view behind the goal to see if there was any kind of short foot on Lucho Acosta where he didn't actually get there first. I think it was pretty clear from that one angle that he came through his foot, but at least his defense will be that. So I think the game was just poorly reffed all the way around. But I think it definitely, whenever you have a situation like that, a goal scoring opportunity, not even to mention the PK. I mean, Lucho is making a turn at goal. It definitely amplifies it with all the poor decisions earlier in the match.
Yeah. Well, Brian, you mentioned earlier the injury, right? That he had an injury on his watch, and I would have, I think, probably taken a closer look at that, because that was a potential injury, the way he hit his knee and knocked him down as his weight was going down on that leg, and he took the knee out, that it could have saved a potential injury by making a call in that instance, and he went the other way with it.
Yeah, that's another reason why I hate the turf, because you see it on the replays how he takes that second touch with that left leg and it just gets stuck in the turf, and then boom, knee's gone. So just unfortunate. I will think though, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that the match, I think it should have been called for a penalty. I think I would love to see FC Cincinnati win this match, but I think overall, if you look at it in a vacuum, a fair 1-1 result, which we were never in games like this a year and a half ago.
No. Yeah, I think Again, poorly managed game, poorly reffed game, I think overall, but I'm not ever one that's going to blame a game on a referee, right? Especially when we had our chances. Yeah, I think especially when we had our chances, Santos had some breaks. Farrell made some good plays on the ball. I still think we had our chances and should have come away. Even if we would have made the PK early on, the game's ours.
Real quick, I think MLS can do one good thing to make this whole. The next game, Alex Chilovitz refs needs to be at TQL Stadium. All right, guys. Coach Brad Goff, I did want to get one of your thoughts on this. Roman Celentano. Still think he's an excellent shot stopper. We've always criticized his distribution. Are you getting a cause for concern on his turnovers and lack of composure on the ball?
Yeah, I actually wrote about this in the player ratings, which I don't think are out yet, but you'll be able to read my thoughts there. I don't think it's to the extent of, where it's like a Kenneth Vermeer situation where he has no clue in between the sticks, but, he can help us keep the ball and possess. I don't think it's the flip side of that. He is a good enough shot stopper, and for the most part, his distribution is sound. The problem is there are too many simple back passes that he is not even just booting out of bounds, but popping up to a guy like Dylan Barrero at the edge of the 18, and that is just dangerous. It really hasn't cost the team too much yet, but when you see a second half where the team was under pressure and could not get out of their own half, and then you have Roman Celentano playing some simple back passes out of bounds, or there was one where he chipped it straight to the New England midfielder and they headed it right back down to Renix, and he was in on goal almost. And, those are the kinds of opportunities that even when they're not accounting for goals, they are mounting the pressure. And I think that Celentano just needs to take a breath and calm down, because he's shown that he can do it. He's not terrible at it. It's not like a guy who looks like he never played soccer and was like a converted, tight end or something back there trying to stop the ball. But I do think that it's starting to get to the point where, like, man, he better be staying after practice. You hear about Vasquez staying after practice, finishing drills. He needs to be just hitting back passes and just cranking them out the midfield over and over after practice.
Love it. Let's move on to Brenner. He flew back into the States, was involved in practice at the end of the week, didn't even travel. Justin, were you surprised he didn't make the trip?
No. Away from the team, now for over a week. No, I'm not surprised at all. I think Brenner's they're gonna have to have a conversation of how it looks going forward. You have Sergio Santos, the leading goal scorer. Brenner's minutes, that's got to be a conversation, particularly with what Udinese may have put in the contract. But no, not surprised that he didn't make a trip against. I mean, this is a big high water mark for FC Cincinnati, going on the road facing a top of the Eastern Conference champion.
You don't think having him available for 15 minutes, even though he's been in? Well, Coach, would you have at least had him there on the bench at all?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that he wasn't on the bench. It was the moment when New England brought on Bo and Bobby Wood that I thought, oh crap, the only guy over on the FC Cincinnati bench that could change a game at all is Yuya Kubo, who we haven't really seen do that yet, on top of the fact that he is coming off a long-term injury. Just that one player to play the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes could have, I think, made a big difference. But a lot of it depends on where his mind is, and you don't want to have a guy in the locker room that has his eyes set somewhere else anyway. That could be more detrimental. So I guess we just have to, trust Pat and company on this one.
He's dreaming of that biscotti and gelato over in Italy, so I know I would be. We were talking about this offline, Brian. Coach Albright had a interview with Tommy Gallagher this past week, and Albright, who does not normally talk to the media, normally lets Coach Noonan hang out there, was talking about replacements for Brenner. Of course, the club's very ecstatic they're able to move him on, and a lot of other topics. Go check it out if you can. But he said that it looks like a move could be coming pretty soon. That excites you? Does it surprise you? I guess you could say.
I don't know. if you listen to or if you watch the interview, he talks about how long they had been looking at players like Angulo, that they had their eyes on him for a year. And it kind of put in perspective that, they knew this was coming and had been looking at somebody. So yeah, I'm excited about it, that they maybe have someone pinpointed that they're going to go after as a replacement, instead of just kind of scrambling in that summer window to find someone, that they've been looking at someone. So yeah, it sounds like they've got their eye on somebody. I'm excited to see who it is and kind of how they fit, and the chemistry, maybe that how quickly they can build chemistry with the team.
Coach, I don't get to talk to you a ton on this show as much as I'd like. When you're looking at evaluating guys to come in and replace Brenner, are you looking at somebody to fit more of his mold? Or are you looking to somebody who's a big target that might replace Vasquez? Or are you looking maybe somebody who can help in possession?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that it depends on what Pat Noonan wants to continue to do. We kind of forget sometimes that Brenner was not his guy. And if he wants to eventually mold this team, even if they stay 3-5-2, if he wants to mold this team more towards like a 4-4-2 diamond look, you have a guy like Vasquez who's big and strong, but also can run the channels, and having a guy that's similar to that, maybe a little quicker, kind of like a Sergio Santos, would be a good quality to have. Somebody that can stretch the field, but I think you have to have somebody that can check back into the midfield a little bit and help you keep the ball, because right now Santos and Vasquez are both really struggling with that. And like I said, Lucho starts to hang out up top a little too often late in the games, which I think the coach wants him to do, but then there's just nobody between the lines there to receive the ball. And Vasquez, I think, has made great improvements there, but he's still not the kind of player who's going to receive a ball to feet, get it out of his feet, and, turn and drive the ball forward on the dribble, or even hit line splitting passes, very often.
I think there's going to be a lot of options to evaluate a lot of quality, different types of guys out there, because at some point, you have a young DP, you have a U22. At some point, Brandon Vasquez contract's going to come off, so you're going to have a high TAM player that you're going to be able to bring in. So there's a lot of options to replace and get creative on that offensive front. So I'm excited to see what happens, and I would love to see another center back or some midfield depth. You're looking at Coach Noonan came out in Albright too this past week and said, like, our goal is Champions League. And you're looking at teams like Philadelphia, who's playing LA in the Champions League semifinal this week. They lost Jose Martinez, and that bench is so thin to replace a guy that caliber. I would love to see, how Albright and Noonan are going to be able to bring in guys that, while you can't replace Lucha or Opie straight off, but they can absolutely find guys that can be difference makers off the bench. So, all right, I was going to jump into Louisville, but they're still crying down there in Kentucky, and we'll let them drink their sorrows away with what's that drink that they're doing this week? The mint julep, right? And then and whatever the pink drink is. So I'm joking.
Lots of mud.
So, all right, guys, let's go into our final thoughts on the week and in the week ahead. So I'm going to start off with Justin again. Give us your final thoughts on the week that was.
Yeah, I think it was a good week. I think I hate having to, kind of crawl through the season a little bit, but I mean, we're still collecting points. Just going to remain positive on that. Protect our guy. A little hats off to our Brenner. Congratulations on the move. I think a lot of people have been kind of negative about that, but we're definitely supportive and thankful for his contributions to this team.
Dude, he got a lot of money. He doesn't need our thanks. He's got that check.
Dude, I have a jersey to represent.
You're too nice
over here, man.
You're too nice.
Paid good money for that.
Thanks for joining us, buddy. We appreciate you. And guys, make sure to keep talking to Justin and engaging him. He's a great social media follow. Brian, how are you, man? Give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. We go round and round about the 1-0 wins and the really close ones. And, I just am reminded that good teams find a way to win, that we don't have all the pieces in place yet, and we can pick all those out through the midfield and our width and our depth at center back. And, our top three aren't scoring, but we're still finding ways to pull out the wins, and we're still top of the table. And you watch NFL games, and there were seasons, as much as I do not like the Patriots, right? There were seasons that they just fought and grinded out ugly wins. And I just feel like that's kind of where we're at right now, sitting top of the table and finding ways to pull it out. And I think there's some good stuff happening there. And once the pieces click, we're going to be off and running.
Thanks for joining us, B. Coach.
Yeah, I actually want to just congratulate most of the FC Cincinnati fans out there because, Lloyd Sam asked that question about what the reaction was to that beatdown in St. Louis. And I found it to be pretty moderated. Most fans were like, there was some unfortunate luck with some of the shots. They should have done better. We don't ever want to see a loss like that, but we weren't burning anything down. And I think that's what it's been throughout this season. For the most part, people are not panicking. People are not, saying like, we need to change things up. There's a few out there, which there's always going to be, but hats off to you, FC Cincinnati fans, because I think you guys have stayed trusting of the Noonan Albright project and what they're doing, and I think they've shown us so far that they deserve that trust. So keep it up, and I think the team will reward us.
Yeah, it should be an exciting weekend. Should be a beautiful Saturday night down in TQL Stadium versus a very good DC United team. They're not the old DC. Yes, they're not tops of the table yet, but they are clicking, and there's a ton of talent on that team, young talent as well. So go enjoy it. My final thoughts is I read the Athletics Monday. They do kind of a compile of different topics on their Monday soccer piece for MLS. And I think they said, like, if you're first place after 10 games, you have like a 90% chance of hosting a playoff game. If you're in second place, it's like a 70% chance of hosting, top four in the standing. So we're second. I'm going to call it second. Yeah, don't throw stones, but I'm pretty excited. Stats show that a lot of teams are able to carry it through. We're in a good spot. We're not struggling. So I love seeing that. Also, my son had the winning goal with 4 seconds left in his match this past weekend. Literally scored the goal. Ref blew the whistle. 4-3 win, baby. Let's go.
Right on.
That's
dude,
awesome, man.
Dude, he was freaking. I went nuts. He was going nuts too. So that's pretty cool. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. As I said, please check out Coach's Talking Tactics as well as his show with Nate later on in the week. And Jersey Swap with Jeff Tebbets. I think he's talking to some of the RFK refugees. So go check out all those podcasts. While feedback at Cincinnati Soccer Talk might not be working right now, please feel free to DM us on Twitter, Facebook, and check us out. And if you have any thoughts, please let us know. For Justin, Brian, and Coach, this is Brian Weigel, and I'm going to steal Sub's famous line. Watch your tackles, y'all. Have a good night.